everyone. So, wanted to go over a piece of news that's actually kind of a W and no one had dumb takes on. Now, accordingly, don't go on Twitter or any other place where this was posted, because this was posted in the New York Post, and they're a hive of scum and villainy. But also, let's just be super clear, like, ignoring the replies online, this is actually a really cool thing. New York judge rules polyamorous unions entitled to the same protections as two-person relationships, by Julia Mustaf, Fox News. Zena, you want to read?
Yeah. An opinion from the New York City Eviction Court has come down on the side of polyamorous unions. In the case of West 49th Street LLC versus O'Neill, New York City Civil Court Judge Karen May Bakdayan something reportedly concluded that polyamorous relationships are entitled to the same sort of legal protection given to two-person relationships. West LLC versus O'Neill involved three individuals, Scott Anderson and Marcus O'Neill, who lived together in a New York City apartment, and Anderson's husband, Robert Romano, who resided elsewhere.
I'll scroll down. Go ahead.
Anderson held the lease, and following his death, the building's owner argued that O'Neill had no right to renew the lease because he was a non-traditional family member. Wow, shit. The attorney for the property owner said that O'Neill's affidavit, in which he claims himself as a non-traditional family member, is a fairy tale. Lovely. According to LGBTQ Nation, the case returns to court after further investigation of the three individuals' relationship. In her decision, Judge Bakdayan highlighted the importance of a previous case and asserted that the existence of a triad, no matter how they got along, should not automatically dismiss O'Neill's claim to non-eviction protections. Mm-hmm. Yep. Before gay marriage was legalized in any state, Brashi versus Stahl, Associates Co., stuff things, was decided. The New York State Court of Appeals became the first American appellate court to recognize that a non-traditional, two-person, same-sex committed family-like relationship is entitled to legal recognition, and that the non-traditional family member is entitled to receive non-eviction protections. The Brashi court interpreted the rent control law in effect at a time when there was no legal recognition of same-sex marriage, and broadly construed the law to effectuate its remedial purposes. Brashi is widely regarded as a catalyst for the legal challenges and changes that ensued. She pointed out, by the end of 2014, gay marriage was legal in 35 states through either legislation or state court action. Oberfell et al. Versus Hodges.
Don't need to go through the whole number.
Numbers 2015, the seminal U.S. Supreme Court decision that established same-sex marriage as a constitutional right was also heralded as groundbreaking. However, Brashi and its progeny and Obergefell limit their holdings to two-person relationships. The instant case presents the distinct and complex issue of significant multi-person relationships. Scroll down. In the case at hand, Bakdayan notes how changes since 1989 play a role, including changes to the definition of family.
Based.
Yeah, right? She notes that the law has rapidly proceeded in recognizing that it is possible for a child to have more than two legal parents. Why then, except for the very real possibility of implicit majoritarian animus, is the limitation of two persons inserted into the definition of a family-like relationship for the purposes of receiving the same protections from eviction according to legally formalized or blood relationships, as Bakdayan. Why does a person have to be committed to one other person in only certain prescribed ways in order to enjoy stability and housing after the departure of a loved one?
True.
She continued. Do all non-traditional relationships have to comprise or include only two primary persons? Bakdayan pondered whether a person who would not meet the requirements for succession to a rent-stabilized apartment after Brashi was decided could now be evicted when they may qualify, as was concluded in Brashke, under a more inclusive interpretation of a family. The judge notes that the problem with cases like Brashke and the landmark
Oberfell and
Hodges, which held that the 14th Amendment guarantees the right for same-sex couples to marry and require all states to recognize and issue marriage licenses for those couples, is that they recognize only two-person relationships.
So there's something in chat that was just said, and I want to call it out, is that Philosopher's Lover kind of, although the main alternative was polygamy, which wasn't great either.
No, what's the context?
The context is that I'm all for monogamy for being seen as the traditional route and polyamory being seen as the other. Maybe my history knowledge isn't great, but I'm pretty sure that polyamory is super present among history. Actually, it super is. If you go by the book Sex at Dawn, it actually argues that we're more polyamorous by nature than we are monogamous. Monogamy is actually sort of a thing that adapted later and for patriarchal reasons. So the idea that like we're doing a comparison of polygamy, monogamy, and polyamory, I actually want to take polygamy out of there. Polygamy is a rape system, not a marriage system. It's a way it's the way that Mormons banged 14-year-olds. Like, I don't think it's actually appropriate to in any conversations of polyamory whatsoever.
Yeah, I think we misread a couple things.
No?
Netspace was saying, to be honest, I'm all for monogamy not being seen as a traditional route, and polyam is the other.
Sure, but the rest of what I said is fine.
Oh, yeah. Polygamy is not
I missed a word.
I'm sorry. That's why I've been getting... I was trying to figure out what the context was.
That's what I was giving you, was the context, and I missed a word, but this is still true. This is the main alternative.
Your mic is literally in the way of most of it. I'm trying to read it.
God damn it.
I got very confused because I'm going off of your words, but then you skipped words.
But yeah, I don't think polygamy has any discussions in real polyamory, because the problem is that, again, I look at that as more like a slave system. Maybe I'm being hyperbolic, but...
Well, and I'm not sure what the past stuff... I can bring it up in context, but I'm not sure what... if that super helps us right now anyways, when we're looking at some of the stuff in the modern day. Like, the fact is that, like, especially with how the economic system is, like, our definitions of family and who lives together is having to change to address this stuff.
That's not true, Philosopher Lover. I highly recommend Sex at Dawn. In tribal systems and early agricultural, there wasn't a problem. I think that's based on a very monogamous-centric perspective.
Philosopher's Lover, you gotta come with data and, like, a bit more concrete stuff on the topic for us to really, like, deal with this. Like, you've got to actually be able to point to, like, which cultures or which time period or which stuff you're referring to. Otherwise, this isn't, like, a really useful conversation. This is what when we're like, you got to come to bang, this is kind of what we mean.
I can re-reference Sex at Dawn in another stream, but yeah, my understanding is it's much more complicated than that. But we can move on. So looking at these legal issues, like, let's talk about this very, very clearly. This is fucking awesome. And the reasoning for it, well, a little bit convoluted, does make sense. The idea that a non-traditional family member is by definition correct. If you are in a triad or a polycule, you are indeed, your partners are in fact non-traditional family members. If, God forbid, at some point, one of our partners moved in with us and they were part of our family, if I was to pass away,
well, and you would run
there would need to be some sort of legal way to define them in that situation.
Yeah, and you would run into similar issues if, say, like, a grandparent, or someone else was another main caregiver and living with the family and one of the parents passed away or something like that. As well, there's a few other ways that this could come up in addition to polyamory.
Well, and again, like, the idea is that, like, we'll pass on to, like, blood relatives, but we won't pass on to somebody's lover. Like, think about it. Like, this is weird, but, like, if you have a family member die and their kids are more likely to go to the grandparents than, say, the person they've lived with for years and years and years and years. Like, that feels weird to me, just because of the way we hyper-fixate on blood relation. And so this gets very complicated, but to see this actually, someone reason this out, really is pretty fucking great. And I agree with the notion that, like, the dismantling of the nuclear family, the idea of changing the definition of families, including polyamory, is a really big thing. I think one of the ways to do that is I actually implore anybody who's monogamous on Twitter to put mono in their fucking bio. Mm-hmm. I think there is a tendency for mono people to get butthurt over the fact that people think they're poly. And the fact of the matter is, if you're in the trans community, it's about a 50-50 shot whether you're polyamorous. Let's be super clear.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't have to guess. It's in my fucking bio. I literally explain it in my bio thing. Like, I literally have the infinity and the love symbol. It literally means this. Like, please be adults. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is a fucking win. This is a fucking win. This is super fucking cool. And again...
Was there anything at the end to read?
Just this little bit here.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So the issue with the other things that they were talking about is that they only recognize two-person relations. Those decisions, however, open the door for consideration for other relational constructs, and perhaps the time has arrived. Bakadan said, citing a passage from Justice John Roberts' Oberfeld dissent. If not having the opportunity to marry serves to disrespect and subordinate gay and lesbian couples, why wouldn't the same imposition of this disability serve to disrespect and subordinate people who find fulfillment in polyamorous relationships, Roberts wrote. Based Roberts, apparently. Mm-hmm.
Roberts goes home that night and talks to his wife like, what if we did have someone on the side, honey?
No, I really appreciate that this is actually going through the courts and this is being talked about. The neat thing about cases like this is that it does start to set precedents in case law and a way for people to start talking about it. One of the ways that we get around the issues with the legislators is through the courts making case law and precedents. For the longest time, Michigan's like non-discrimination stuff, the Supreme Court in Michigan decided that sex actually does include trans people. And that was set by case law, not by like a legal precedence that they changed in the law, right? So I find it really, really neat when they do this kind of thing, because I think this stuff is really helpful and gives
case law is always stronger, right?
Depending, I don't know as much about it, but yeah, because when you actually get to the cases being settled, then yeah.
But yeah, no joke, guys. This is actually a cool win. Now, the one negative I will say about this, and this is just being honest, is if this gets challenged and continues going up, depending on the nature of the case, and I am not a lawyer, it is entirely possible that this could get challenged and continually be challenged. If it goes to the Supreme Court, it's fucked. My hope is that doesn't happen. I hope nobody challenges it. I hope that it just stays right where it is until we can stack the deck in our favor, or Biden continues throwing out W's and we eventually get like 4 more justices.
Yeah, I don't know anything that's going on with a particular case, or if there's any intentions to continue challenging it or not. Mm-hmm. I have no idea.
Yeah, we need more malarkey. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, take it for the win it is. With that said, I think we're both good on this, so we will, we'll see you in the next one. Cut the segment. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, consider donating to us. You can support us on our website, transgirltherapist.org. You can also help us on our Patreon, link below, or you can become a member here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching.